PS Audio, a hi-fi specialist manufacturer that has been in business for over 40 years. All their products are handcrafted in Boulder, Colorado. When I think of PS Audio, I think of mains regenerators, and it's easy to see why. However, it all started in 1973 with a preamplifier. The company has made quite a few hi-fi products since then, and their current product lineup is very comprehensive. Hello and welcome to Pursuit of Perfect System. In for review, we have had the PS Audio DirectStream Dac, and installed in it, it's got the Perfect Wave Bridge 2. Okay, let's look at the design of this DAC. Now, first of all, it's a full-size DAC. We get a full-size chassis, but the design actually of the DAC is very nice. It's very modern, it's very sleek. It's simplistic but stylish at the same time. I would say it's modern looking and elegant. Build quality of the unit is excellent. It feels extremely well made and extremely high quality. Now, on the front, it's it's a simplistic affair, but again, an elegant one. We have a nice, screen here, which is actually a touch screen, which is, pardon the pun, a nice touch. As part of the design. The touchscreen actually works extremely well. It's very responsive and very slick and intuitive to use. The controls via the touchscreen are complex enough, but still, simple at the same time. The unit is heavy, weighing in at 13.5 kilograms. It feels substantial. It feels heavy, and that's partly due to, a heavyweight steel and aluminium construction. I must say, when you touch the unit, it feels quality. It feels like your sand-blasted aluminium finish, which is nice. It feels really nice to the touch, and it looks very nice as well. Let's just quickly talk about the remote control. Now, even this is a very high-quality remote control. PS Audio branded at the bottom, which is a nice touch. We've got, a plastic back, but an aluminium front, and it looks nice. It feels nice. With good line of sight, perfectly responsive. The buttons feel, hard-wearing and high quality. And yeah, it's a very nice remote control, which goes with, a premium package of quality product such as this. Let's have a look at the rear of this DAC. Now, the first thing that stands out about the rear of this DAC is the quality of the connections. Now, I really like these kind of chunky, well-made, hard-wearing connections that are used on the back of this DAC. And I like the way the DAC's sensibly laid out, easy to see what you're doing, easy to wire up, very clear. And it's just a well thought out, well designed product, and so even the back of the unit feels high quality. Something to point out is we've got RCA outputs and balanced outputs for those obviously who prefer a balanced connection. Overall, I think PS Audio have done a great job with the design and aesthetic look of this DAC, and even the top plate itself, the black top plate, is a nice touch, a really nice feature, and those types of features are a touch of class, so they really add that little extra something to the look of the product. Okay, for the technical design aspect of this DAC, I actually contacted PS Audio's CEO, Paul McGowan, and I asked him the question, what really was the design philosophy for the DirectStream Dac, and this is what he answered, and I felt I would share his answer with you. Our focus has always been sound quality, and our goal for DirectStream was to build a field upgradable DAC without compromise. We've been years at it and have several major software upgrades to our customers' advantage so far, with more to come. Ted Smith, the DAC's designer, pulls miracles out of his genius brain, and we just smile. The company's policy of free upgrades, where our customers essentially get a new DAC every 6 to 9 months, makes me prouder than just about anything we've done. So I felt I would share that with you, because to me that sums up really what they've tried to do with this DAC. Their main goal was to make a no compromise DAC which they can continually improve and continually bring benefit, to their customers who have invested in this product. Now, I can think of very few companies that do that, and very few companies that give upgrades to their customers for free. Okay, specifications, and we're going to start by looking at the basic specification for this DAC. Now, it has 4 inputs: SPDIF, asynchronous USB, I2, and Toslink. Toslink supports 24-bit 192 kHz with DSD 64. The other 3 inputs all support 24-bit 354 kHz and DSD 128. The DAC has a THD of 0.03%. Now, this is where things get a little different. This is a 100% single bit DSD digital to analog converter. It takes all incoming signals and upsamples them to DSD. Instead of using an active output stage, such as a tube or a solid state device, the output stage of this DAC is completely passive. High-speed Class A video amplifiers are used for the single bit DSD output stage of DirectStream. These feed a high-performance output transformer, specially designed to act as galvanic isolation and to low-pass filter the signal to help present a low noise and low distortion signal. PS Audio and lead designer Ted Smith have paid great attention to creating a simple path. They use an ultra-high quality clock with extremely low phase noise and extremely low jitter. Speaking of jitter, PS Audio say that this DAC is pretty immune to incoming jitter from any source. Another massive feature of this DAC is that it's an FPGA DAC, obviously field programmable. Since its launch in 2014, PS Audio have brought out a number of firmware upgrades for this DAC, all free, which is phenomenal support to their customer base, and each individual firmware has brought improvements to the sound quality of the DAC. This DAC is also a preamplifier which has 100% bit perfect volume and balance controls. I would say if you want more technical details about the design and how clever this DAC is, I would look down in the description below this video, and I'll post the links to some very technical and in-depth videos that PS Audio have released. Some of those are with Ted Smith, the designer, really going into detail about how he's designed and why he's designed this DAC in this way and the benefits of doing that. When you see how passionate he is about the subject, it's very easy to believe that he really knows what he's talking about. There are 2 other major specification points that I need to point out. One is this DAC is Roon compatible, which is going to be of great interest to a lot of people. The other feature to point out is this is fully MQA compatible with the Perfect Wave Bridge 2 installed. With the Perfect Wave Bridge 2 installed, you have an all-in-one streamer, perfectly set up for Tidal, and it allows you to play MQA masters at their full quality for the music that is mastered to that level, all rolled up obviously in this one package. And if you check in the channel, I've created a couple of videos explaining about how you do that, how it works, and I've also done a comparison video for non-MQA versus MQA, and the differences are marked. Okay, let's talk about the live with ability for the Perfect Wave DAC. Now, this is the perfect audiophile companion. As a product, it's worked flawlessly the whole time it's been here for review, and I suppose we should expect that, but it's still worth pointing out because I've put this DAC through more of its paces because of the features that it has, and it's worked flawlessly for everything. The touchscreen works perfectly. It's really responsive, and it seems immune to fingerprints, which is amazing, really. It's that's the last thing you expect, but something that's extremely welcome. One thing I feel would be nice, and a nice addition to the touchscreen, most of the time you're just looking at kind of a spec kind of page there which tells you the input and stuff. What would be nice if maybe after 10 seconds or so that flicked over to a screensaver, that flicked over to maybe a PS Audio logo or maybe a user selectable picture or something there. That would be a nice touch, I think, to add to this DAC. I didn't notice any warm-up time with this DAC. I mean, the DAC actually physically stays quite warm all the time, which is absolutely fine, but the DAC sounded good straight away. There was no warm-up time at all, which is really nice. I like the fact you can dim the screen or turn the screen completely off. And when you do that, the PS Audio logo stays on, which actually looks really nice. It's a really nice feature. However, I feel it would be nice, PS Audio could add the option to disable this light as well. What I would say is, because of the nature of the touchscreen now, very obvious, the options are on that, and the quality of the remote control, you always feel like you're in control. You always feel like you've selected the right option. You never feel uncertain and you never feel unsure about the options you're choosing and what you've selected, which is a very reassuring thing. One nice touch is the balance controls via the remote control. Now, I did actually use those a couple of times just to check to make sure, you know, my speakers were equal levels and both working, etc, etc. So it's not something that you're going to use every day, but it is a nice touch just to be able to quickly do that via the remote control. And also having a volume control on this as a DAC, even if you're not using it as a preamplifier, could potentially be of great benefit to some customers. Now, I've got a friend of mine who's got a very high quality preamplifier, but it's got a stepped volume control, and he says it's either one step too low or one step too loud. He can never quite get it perfect. Now, with this DAC, he could set that high and potentially set the level slightly low on this, or adjust his volume via the remote control via this DAC. So while that's not going to be for everybody, that is still a nice feature to have for some people. Okay, let's talk about the sound quality of the PS Audio DirectStream Dac. Now, I thought I had this DAC sussed out very early. It struck a really nice balance for me between detail, resolution, clarity, and yet smoothness and musicality. And I was pretty smitten with it straight away, to be honest, because it struck up such a nice balance between all of those key aspects. I was very happy and I was very content with the sound quality from this DAC, and I went to work and I made the demonstration videos, which are in the channel, which you might have watched already. If not, please go and watch them, because you'll get a good representation of what this DAC sounded like. Now, it was only when I went to test out the MQA side of this DAC that I realised I was actually running a very old firmware. Fortunately, that put me in a great position that I actually felt like I was one of PS Audio's customers of a few years ago. I got time to listen to the DAC with that firmware, and then I was able to go and listen to the newer firmwares to compare to how they sounded. So that was actually a lucky, fortuitous situation. Now, initially I was listening to the Yale. I tried the brand new Huron firmware and also the Torres firmware. Now, personally, I preferred the Torres firmware with how I had things set up, so I spent most of my rest of the time listening to that firmware. For me, Torres retained that smoothness and musicality that had got me smitten, but improved and increased the space and improved the clarity and resolution of the rest of the presentation. So let's get into the sound in more detail. The first thing you notice about this DAC is the timing. Now, I personally think this is the DAC with the best timing I have heard so far. You notice it with just how crisp everything is. The sound is crisp and controlled from the treble right the way through down into the bass. I would go as far as to say the timing from this DAC is perfect, or about as perfect as we're going to get. Notes stop and start instantly, and that allows you to hear deeper into the music. It opens the music up and allows for a far more insightful presentation. You hear more inner details. You hear more of the in-between detail. That's quite difficult to explain, but you have to hear it for yourself. This DAC really does bring out inner details and micro details and layers of resolution and layering within the music that you will have never heard before. The overall presentation from this DAC literally does not have an ounce of fat on it. All the design work that Ted Smith and PS Audio done to reduce noise and to reduce jitter is proven and clear the minute you start listening to this DAC. You know, if I was to categorize and try and describe the sound, it reminds me of a perfect cross between Mo Farah and Usain Bolt. You have a really tight and crisp and you know, fatless and jitterless and noiseless presentation that's as fast as you like and as fast as literally it gets. I think this aspect of the presentation might be a shock to some audiophiles that are used to an overly colourful and warmer presentation. That type of presentation is more attractive to the ear. However, there's a big but that goes with that. Over a period of time, the more you listen to this DAC, the more its presentation makes sense. And when you go back to what was colourful and what was warm, it actually just sounds fuzzy, it just sounds noisy, and it just sounds unclear and uncontrolled by comparison. So bear that in mind if you listen to this DAC. This might not be the sort of DAC that initially wows you. Not all the best products do. Some of the best products are the slow burners, the ones once you spend time with, they grow on you and you start to realise just how good they are. I can assure you, if you spend some serious time with this DAC, it will definitely grow on you, and you'll definitely appreciate what this DAC does to music and how clear and how controlled and how precise the sound from this DAC is. And who doesn't want that, really? Who doesn't want a clean and clear and precise sound from their music? Everybody surely would want that. And that precision of sound will be extremely difficult to go back from. Speaking from personal experience, that's going to be a very difficult sound to go back from. I feel that sound presentation or that sound expectation is going to be imparted on you forever. So looking at the bass from this DAC, now if I was going to pick out on any negative, it would just be that I prefer the sound with a bit more bass power, maybe a bit more bass guts to it. However, the quality of bass from this DAC is literally outstanding. It's so controlled, it's so tight and articulate and smooth and detailed that even though I like bass with a bit more power and guts to it, there's no way I would sacrifice any of the control, detail, resolution and insightfulness of the bass for more power and more guts. That really means that for about 99% of the music I was listening to, I was happy and satisfied with the bass power and the bass gutsiness. For 100% of the music, I was blown away by the bass quality and the bass control and precision and articulation and insightfulness. From this DAC, it's been some of the best bass quality I've ever had. I actually listened to a house music mix that I did years ago when I was a DJ. It was actually the first one that I did, and it was pretty interesting. That mix sounded incredible through this DAC. I really couldn't believe how good it sounded, and it was the bass from that type of music, the way I could hear into the bass and how I could hear how terrible my mixes were from song to song. It was just incredible. What an experience it was to listen to that. And this DAC elevated the sound of that house mix that I did years ago to something really special. So that says a lot. Wow, it was really impressive to listen to that. The soundstage from this DAC is as good as any that I have heard previously. Wide, tall, crisp, organised, space, layering, detail, inner detail, crispness, control. Brilliant, simply brilliant. The mid-range and the treble have tons of clarity, tons and bags of clarity and refinement. Refinement is actually the perfect word to describe this DAC. It's ultra refined in its presentation. So just to recap from this DAC, we have a fast, clean, detailed, crisp, uncoloured, transparent, refined, ultra detailed presentation that's smooth and musical all at the same time. All at the same time. What more could you want? What more could you want? Okay, in conclusion, this is a great DAC, a great DAC. I really love this DAC. I really appreciate this DAC. It is fantastic. It really is fantastic. I really appreciate what it does to music, what it does to all music, how it elevates and improves CD quality, and yet it still gives more when you feed it higher quality sample files, DSD, etc. But at the same time, it doesn't punish your Redbook CD content. It makes that all sound better or as good as it's going to sound. It's fantastic in that regard. I think it's a great overall package. It looks nice, it looks elegant, you know, it's very wife friendly. It's got some nice touches, nice features like your touch screen on the front. It's got really high quality connections on the back. You get years and years of support and upgrades, free upgrades from PS Audio, and the promise of continuous and more free upgrades over time. How great is that? It's DSD capable. It's also a bit perfect preamplifier. I love the fact that you can personally choose which firmware you use for this DAC, because I found differences between the latest, the one before, and the one before that, and that's purely system synergy and synergy with what I got and what my personal taste is. But I so appreciate the fact that I can quickly, it takes a couple of minutes to change between the firmware, being able to choose, pick and choose and change and mess around with the firmware shows PS Audio trusting their customers first and foremost to not make mistakes, and it shows trust in the quality of the firmwares that they're putting out, that they know there's no chance of bricking the devices. And then there's the sound quality, that crisp, controlled, precise and yet still smooth and musical sound. For me, that is a really enjoyable and intoxicating listening. It's the sort of listening where you feel like everything is organised and controlled and kind of perfect, really, in how it's delivering. Now, I'm not saying everybody might think this DAC sounds perfect. Spend some time with it and you'll realise it's giving you the music in a very uncoloured way. Factoring that in, you know, if this DAC is giving it to us as pure as possible, it's giving it to us on a very pure form, then it's a DAC worthy of building a system around, isn't it? It's a DAC worthy of, you know, put this in first, or buy your speakers, put this in, and then find your amplifiers and your other bits and pieces to make that system then work for you. Because surely the resolution and the clarity and the crispness has got to come first, because, you know, even if you like a colourful, rich and big presentation, as I do, I really do, once you've heard a level of clarity and resolution, if that's no longer there, you'll forever miss that. And then we have MQA compatibility with this DAC and the Roon compatibility. So if you are big in streaming, if you are, you know, thinking of streaming, or if you think streaming is the future, then you can literally stream full MQA files straight into this DAC, and you get a very slick and free control application from PS Audio, which works perfectly as well. And let's factor in a lot of these features weren't out at the time of release, and they've been brought out years later. And that is the perfect indication of the support that PS Audio are offering their customers. These are all free upgrades. So when we think of the price of this DAC, just over £6,000 currently, when you think, yeah, that's a lot of money and it's an investment amount of money, but you are actually making an investment in this product, and you are making an investment in PS Audio, because you know over time they're going to continue to bring you upgrades, and they're going to continue to bring you improvements, and they're going to continue to bring you new features and new specifications such as their MQA. And that's all for your initial price. That's all for your initial investment. So when you factor all of that in, years of support, years of service, years of upgrades, all rolled into one price tag, that actually is very good value, isn't it? Very good value for money. So, you know, this is a PS Audio's reference DAC, and this is a reference product. So it is the sort of product that you can buy safe in the knowledge that you own a very high quality and very high performing DAC. For me, this is a reference quality product. This is a reference quality DAC, and as such, it's a very easy to award it a certified to be special award. We only give out to the very best and the very elite performing products that we review. This would be, in my eyes, a great product to have as a reference device for reviewing. To me, this is a special product. This is a very special DAC. One that's easy to love, easy to live with, really easy to listen to. And yeah, I really like it. I really love it. It's a great product. It's a great DAC. PS Audio. This is fantastic. Well done, really well done. I'm so impressed with the sound quality. I'm so impressed with the build quality. I'm so impressed with the feature set. That, yeah, well done. You're brilliant. Okay then, time to give this DAC a rating, and it's a very easy double thumbs up. Very, very easy double thumbs up. Now, would I buy this DAC with my own money? And this DAC has actually got me rummaging through all the cupboards, rummaging through the loft, rummaging through the garage, digging out all our old stuff to take to boot sale to sell, because, you know, I want to raise money. I really would like to buy this DAC. I've really enjoyed it. I've literally enjoyed listening to music with this DAC from the first second to the last second. I've messed around with different things and different settings and different stuff, different sources, and it's always, everything sounded good. Different variants of good, but literally everything has sounded good. And my only regret with the time I've spent with this DAC is that I haven't got more time to spend with it. I was just getting into trying some new things out to try and squeeze some more performance out of it. And unfortunately, I've just run out of time. You know, that is it. That is all the time I've got. But yes, ba-boom, yes, I would buy this DAC with my own money. And I would buy it safe in the knowledge that I would love listening to it for years to come and relish, you know, the improvements that PS Audio bring out. And I'd enjoy trying those out every single time. And speaking of improvements, I can't but help think that I would love to try this DAC out with more PS Audio products in the system. I'd love to try it out on the end of their P10 mains regenerator. I'd love to try that compared to a mains filtering, which I normally use. I'd also love to use this DAC with the PS Audio BHK signature preamplifier and power amplifier. That would be phenomenal to review those products and try those products out in my system. So fingers crossed, you know, hint hint PS Audio. I'd love to do that if you would honour me with some time with those products. I would love to do that, and I can only imagine that I would really love the experience as well.